We've had our run-ins with most popular pens before in various categories, but are these cool kids worth the hype, or are they a little flaky?
Today, the cool kid in the house is the Pilot G205. It's a ball pen, not a gel pen, or is it a gel pen but not a ball pen? We've had this discussion several times before.
It is a rolling ball gel pen.
Okay, fine. So, it's very popular, isn't it? It's not just a cool kid, it's a popular kid.
No, it is apparently America's #1 selling gel pen.
Really.
So the last time we tackled America's #1 selling something or the other, it was a ball pen.
Yeah, that was that I believe was the Pentel RSVP.
Which we did not like, and I think we're sensing a pattern here. At least Samir and I weren't too happy with these, were we, Samir?
No, I think they do seem to work very well in certain circumstances, and some of the colors is what we're gathering.
Yeah, like this green one, and we'll see it when we do our actual test drives later. I could not really get a line out of it. Today it seems to be behaving okay. There it is. Getting a line out of this that is in any way reliable, and we're artists, we're calligraphers and designers, we depend a certain amount on reliability, on the ability to do lines in any direction and then actually get a line out of it. Now I'm trying to be fairly even with here, not being either too pressured or too light, but no matter how much I press or how little I press, some directions work, some do not. And yes, I know these are all normal things that gel pens and ball pens have, but honestly, after more than 60 episodes of this show, several gel pens, several ball pens, maybe we got a bum batch, maybe you have better luck with these, but these are not very reliable, to me at least.
I think what I did find using these is, and Minjal and Vishal and me had different sets of them. The black ones definitely seem to be the best and most reliable among them.
I would say the red one for me was the most. I did not get very interrupted lines. You still get a bit of interruption, but we've tried cleaning these. It's not like we're unaware of the ways you can fix these, but only the red really worked for me.
So let's say that the green and blue are actually the problematic ones, because I used the blue and there is a fair amount of stoppage.
And the stoppage happens at different angles, and I could never replicate the angle or replicate the, correct my motion. You do all these things sometimes unconsciously with ball pens. There was no reliable rhyme or reason. And I say this because there are other pens that stop, there are other pens that ball up. There was no balling in this one, I will say that. The very good thing is there was zero balling of ink at the end that would then smear.
No, and they also do dry very, very quickly.
Yeah.
So that is another plus.
Yeah, but either because of that or just unrelated to that, getting an even line, even I guess if you're writing, this might be a problem.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say that this is one of the finest tipped gel pens that we have tried. And when they do work, they are extremely fine and nice when the line is smooth. What we did figure out, at least in part, is that one of the main reasons for failure here is that it just cannot take even the most minimal of texture on the paper.
And that kind of leads to some of the work we did. Minjal, why don't you show us yours? Because yours is the most successful, I would say, of all three of us.
And also the one that relies the most on writing, which I guess is what these pens are made for the most.
That's right. So I actually also tried writing with the black and blue, which I had, on textured paper, so which is cartridge paper. And the pen stopped multiple times.
Yeah, we'll come back to this point when I do mine.
And which is why obviously I switched to smoother paper. I did actually quite enjoy writing with the pen on smooth paper.
Okay.
Like you said, it's a really nice fine line, which is nice, when you're using the pen for, say, maybe journaling or scrapbooking.
Yeah.
This is also available in lots of, nice colors. I believe there are also pastel colors, metallic colors. The G2 obviously is supposed to be one of the most popular selling pens in US. They're not very expensive. You get a pack for like a dozen pens for $14. So they're quite reasonable.
And I fully, give it to them that maybe in the US under those conditions, weather conditions, we're living in the tropics, we're living in India. Things take a while to get to us, the stock as well. Maybe there are just some atmospheric changes that happen.
Yeah,
These are all.
It is possible that pens like this, especially because of the very fine tip, pressures matter.
Pressures matter.
So it's possible that it works very well in certain weathers and not in others.
But especially in India, when there are things literally engineered to work here that are much cheaper and much more reliable. For our endeavors, at least we can't give this at least I can't give it a recommendation.
Now, and I do know that we tested the Papermate Ink Joy gel pens earlier.
Yeah.
And those were like really
Those
great
were
to write
amazing.
with. Yeah.
Those were probably one of the best gel pens we've tried.
The ink flow, the colors, no stoppage, no smudging, no, blobbing. Is that the term? Yeah.
Yeah, balling up or
Balling.
whatever. Yeah.
But yeah, these are okay to write with. Not the world's best-selling gel pens. They're all right.
Yeah, strictly okay is how I would describe even my test drive with this. After a while, frankly, I just gave up. And I gave up because I'll show you this. Here's one I tried to prepare earlier. And here you can see the black, getting that line down was the problem. The reds worked. I tried the green and it barely put it down. So this is my original one with my pencil sketch on it. And it's on a smooth cartridge paper, which still has texture. And then Samir said he had tried it on A4 copy paper, which is much thinner. And that is this sheet. And yeah, I had a slightly better time. I was at least able to finish something, a sketch at least. But no, it was not. Again, you'd have, especially when pulling these fine curves and like controlled curves, it's fine to kind of throw out a curve at random. But when you want a very precise line, only the red was giving me some of that. And then after all that, the line is thin, but it's not particularly like lively or memorable. It's just a dead line that you kind of just put down, and it's okay for, I guess, mechanical drawings, but it doesn't have the kind of life and bounce and variation and texture that we like, at least I like, when using a pen like this.
Yeah, I think very much like the Pentel that we were talking about earlier. These are pens that are probably strictly meant for regular writing. So we are kind of pushing them to do things that they were probably not ever designed to do. They do have their strengths. The fineness of it is definitely a strength. It's probably the finest one we've come across. Although the Papermates were pretty close.
Yeah, and much easier to use, much simpler and nicer. Samir, you did something much more complex than either of us did.
I, being sometimes a fan of suffering, I tried to use a similar cartridge paper to Vishal, but the textured version.
Right.
Which was the worst experience of using any sort of writing pen I have ever done.
I have to say it doesn't really show through because that texture that you got out of it, and I know that it's a bad texture technically, but it looks good.
But yes, this pen reacts so badly to texture on paper that actually the worst time I had on this entire page was the writing. The green, as we've said, does seem to be one of the slightly flakier pens as far as the ink is concerned. But trying to write on this kind of textured paper, and mind you, this is not the most textured paper.
No,
this is just mildly textured.
Yeah.
That probably took me longer than doing an entire panel of shading in some cases. I tried to do this in green, and you can literally see a dent on the other side. That's how much effort it took to put in a dot of green. But yes, we've talked about how important the actual surface is when it comes to a lot of these tools. the tool doesn't work in a vacuum. You do need to choose the right paper, and this is probably one of those perfect examples where the paper almost dictates what experience you have with the pen. At the same time, we have also mentioned that it's sometimes nice to struggle a little with your tool, and I think this is a good example of that. I don't think I would have gotten this very gritty, crime comic effect if this was a better pen. Because then I would have done these perfectly clean black lines and it wouldn't quite have had the mood of this piece.
Or if you even used a smoother paper, you wouldn't have achieved the same.
So sometimes it's fine to not like a tool as long as you use it for the right reason.
Look, I think these are, if you're in the States, these are like really economical. I don't think people are really thinking so much about, they're good for writing. People don't use it for illustrations.
I think for someone in the US, this is very much a kind of throwaway pen, like maybe the cello butterflow that we have talked about earlier is in India.
Or the Rorito, that we really like.
Where they're so kind of, they're so reasonable price-wise that you don't really need to think about the fine points.
I think let's just say that Pilot, is really good with their fountain pens.
Yeah.
We've tested the parallel pen. We've tested the Kakuno, which is one of their mid-point fountain pens. I'm sure the expensive ones are even better.
Yeah.
So if you know why we're having such a terrible time with US popular fountain gel pens and ball pens, and it's not one of the reasons we talked about before, please let us know in the comments. We'd love to know more. Tell us why this is so popular, because we really don't see it. Maybe it is just the distance and the time it takes to get here or whatever, but
I'm just guessing here, but as far as why this is so popular, I guess it's a pretty good grip.
Oh yeah.
The pen has a really beautiful feel in the hand. For what I assume is a fairly cheap pen. It feels quite premium for a plastic gel pen.
Look, it's Pilot. They have the money to advertise big. I believe Priyanka Chopra is also the ambassador of the Pilot stationery.
Okay.
I don't know if it's worldwide, but she definitely is the ambassador for US. They have the money. Their distribution is obviously very strong, which is why they're available everywhere. Yeah. So, I'm guessing that's why they're so popular.
And they have great products. You see our other videos on Pilot things. We love those.
Yeah. And as far as why, again, on a purely practical kind of writing instrument, office instrument thing, this has a lot going for it. It has, a good build. It's great to hold. It has one of the finest points that we have ever seen. And I believe the reservoir here is also one of the largest that you will find in a gel pen. So this is a fairly long-lasting pen.
Yeah, which is why they claim that although this is, you can change the refill, you may not really have to do it because it lasts for a very long time.
Yeah.
So, these are good for writing. Get them, if you can get them in the US, because here again, they're expensive.
Yeah.
So you will get a pack, a dozen for like 3,500 rupees.
Which is definitely not $14.
And definitely not worth it for a tool of this kind.
Yeah.
There are so many better options in any market, including something like India. I mean, if you want something that's kind of simple and throwaway, there's many pens by Cello and by Hauser. If you want something in multiple colors, there's a beautiful metallic set of Hausers we tested out a while ago. If you want simple ball pens, there's again Roritos and Cellos, and so wherever you are in the world, you will find pens of this sort which are simple, easy to use, cheap, kind of throwaway. It's better to kind of figure out what works in your part of the world and go for that.
Right. One thing that works worldwide is inkymemo.com, as far as we know. I don't think we've been banned by anyone yet for our flagrant and controversial takes on stationery and things like that. You can go to inkymemo.com, sign up to our newsletter, see transcripts of episodes like of this, because we have over 60 episodes on YouTube and we keep bringing out transcripts onto the site itself. And we will see you next time. I'm Vishal.
This is Minjal.
I'm Samir. And since we've been kind of talking about popular pens that we didn't quite get the hype about. If you want to see another one of these, look at our Pentel video from earlier and another best-selling pen in Europe this time, which we didn't quite get the handle on. Look at our Color Stabilo review.
Pilot, maybe it's time for a G3.